Welcome to From Loneliness to Overflow with Matina. I'm your host, a holistic healing coach, divorce recovery coach, and a passionate advocate for personal growth and your guide on the journey to healing. This podcast is for those who are struggling with the feelings of loneliness, disconnection, feeling stuck, and who are ready to discover their inner potential and live a life overflowing with love and connection. Inside, we're going to explore the path from pain to transformation, bridging the gap between loneliness and abundance through heartfelt conversations, spirituality, energy work, and self-awareness. So let's get started on this soulful journey together. Welcome to another episode from Loneliness to Overflow with Matina. Today's guest was awakened through a hypnosis session and really took herself through a very deep journey of her soul, of service, of awakening, and of finding the gems inside of herself. And I can't wait for everyone listening to hear her gems. Welcome, Amanda.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Oh, so lovely to have you. Thank you for joining and being so open and vulnerable to sharing your story. So for those who don't know you yet, please introduce yourself.
Yes. So my name is Amanda. I am the director of Truly Aligned Hypnosis. It is a fully online service where I help everyday people achieve their goals. The big goals that we myself look at are weight loss, stop smoking, and stress management. And we do that through hypnosis and NLP, so neuro linguistics programming.
Beautiful. Now, as we know, a lot of the journeys and the steps that we are taking for ourselves now is not something we started with or what we actually eventually thought we were going to do. Mm-hmm. So I really want to go back into your journey, Amanda, and really ask you the question, what was your loneliness or disconnection moment that actually led you into doing what you do and being in the overflow of it?
Yeah. So the story is that when I was young, I always really struggled with my weight. So I was always kind of the pudgy kid growing up. So I was always struggling with my weight and I was always struggling with my confidence. And when I got into university, it was this kind of, it came to a head, really. So I was very stressed out. I was disconnected. It was probably one of the loneliest times was my second year of university. And I was the biggest I'd ever been. And I was lost. And I didn't really know where to go. I tried everything from pills to programs to what else did I do? Oh, geez, what didn't I do? I think that's the better question. But I was very lonely. I was very stressed out and I just didn't really know what to do. I was at a loss. And so when my mom brought up to me, hey, why not try hypnosis to lose this weight? You've been trying everything. And I went, sure. I mean, I was pretty desperate when I walked into Burlington Hypnosis. This was about 12, 13 years ago. And the hypnotist there, Robbie, she helped me really through hypnosis and neurolinguistics program. She helped me huge to not only lose 25 pounds in 3 months, but she also helped me with my confidence. And from there, life completely changed. I felt more connected to people. I was dating again. I was feeling really good in myself. I was connecting to friends in ways that I wasn't before. And it really opened me up to new opportunities. And it's interesting because at the time I was like, I want to become a hypnotist as well. And I was studying theater actually at University of Brock. And I decided I was going to give that up and I was going to become a hypnotist. But when you're 22 years old and I was just very young. So instead I was like, I want to go travel the world and see all sorts of really cool stuff. So that's what I did. I backpacked through Europe. I moved to Australia. I fell in love and moved to Ireland and lived there for a year and then moved back to Canada. And then COVID hit. And when COVID hit, my relationship ended. I was a little bit lost again and actually went back to hypnosis to get me back on track. Wow. And I found Robbie again and She actually was now running a new company where she helps people become hypnotists, and she teaches neurolinguistics programming courses as well as basic hypnosis courses. So I decided to do that. This was a few years ago. And then a really beautiful part of the story is that they hired me on for Burlington Hypnosis, where I work with Tree Ride, who is the director. And yeah, so it's been kind of this beautiful full circle moment, going from being a client to one of their hypnotists to starting my own business. And yeah.
How amazing is that journey?
Mm-hmm.
Even though, in all reality, it didn't start beautiful.
It never does.
There was such a, as you were sharing your story, I could feel the despair of that moment where it's like, I tried everything, I did everything, and nothing is working. I'm going to give this a shot because why not?
Mm-hmm.
So there was no expectation, it feels like, but there was also like, okay, I'm going to try something new because giving up was not an option.
Mm-hmm. I don't think it's ever been an option for me. Like, I've always been that person that's always going to be looking for something. I truly believe that you got one life. You might as well make the best of it. And you're going to go through ebbs and flows. And one thing that I've learned through hypnosis is that, yeah, you're going to go through ebbs and flows, and you can go through the extreme highs and the extreme lows, those like, and I did go through those, but it doesn't have to be that way. It can
Yeah,
be like riding the waves as well. So I find through hypnosis, it's helped me to ride the waves through life and feeling really good.
that is amazing. And that's just one tool, but that was the tool for you that really allowed you to experience life in a different light.
Mm-hmm.
Not only did you lose the weight that you were looking to lose, you actually stopped doing something that you thought was going to be your future and
Mm-hmm.
decided to travel.
Yeah. So we as human beings, we all go through patterns. And so a part of what I do as not only a hypnotist, I'm also what they call a human behavioral expert. And I look at people's patterns. And what I had to do with myself is look at my own patterns and see what's really going on and how to really throw a wrench, I'd like to say, or change those patterns so that I could, or that anyone could be successful. And so I had to actually change my own patterns to be able to go after what I really wanted in life.
Right. And what a way to change your pattern by going to travel and having that uncertainty, but also the beauty of all the cities and countries that you visited and
Mm-hmm.
doing up really life's experiences that so many don't even get to experience at that young age because they're just like, we need to go follow the rules of this, and this. First education, then a job, then a family, and all of those things. Yet you chose differently and it served you because
Mm-hmm.
not only did you come back years after to the same place to find realignment again, and
Mm-hmm.
there's power in that too. Because Amanda, I don't know how you feel about it, but I'm curious to hear that so often people go through a hardship, they get the help they need, they feel better, and then something else happens in their lives. And the first thing they are hit with is that shame that they have to go back to something that helped them earlier. Did you go through that or did you experience some of that?
Oh, absolutely. I had experienced it a second time during COVID. It was that moment of like, oh, and it's very interesting because when crazy things like when life really does throw you a wrench, when life goes sideways, we go back to that time in our lives when either between 0 to 7 or between 7 and to 14. And it's like reverting back almost. And we start going back to those patterns that we learned back then. And we start to do the things that we did back then. So when we find ourselves in frustration, when we find ourselves in bargaining, when we find ourselves in sadness, that's when we start going back to those old patterns. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why we keep going over and over. It's kind of like these cycles. We see ourselves going over and over and over again. And until we actually change the pattern, we can't change our life. And it's
So what
really
pattern did
important.
you change though? The second time around, what pattern did you acknowledge? First of all, acknowledgement is important, right? We have to face it before we can change it. So how did you get to that acknowledgement and to the decision of, okay, I'm going to go back to what I know to help myself forward?
Great question. So, do you want to do some role playing and learn something new?
Sure.
All right. So, the wall in front of you, I want you to look at that wall, point at it, and say, it's all your fault.
It's all your fault.
Perfect. Now, hands out. I'll do anything for you.
I'll do anything for you.
And putting your finger to your chin and going, if I can analyze this.
If I can analyze this.
And now, this is always everyone's favorite one. Move around. Awesome. So these are 4 coping stances that every human being goes through. There is a famous doctor out there. She's a family therapist. Her name is Dr. Virginia Satir. Fortunately, she is no longer greenside, but she's got a beautiful book out there. And she tells this story that there are 4 people in a boat, and there's a hole in the boat, and the boat is sinking. And you've got the blamer saying, who put the hole in the boat? You've got the people pleaser going, I'll swim to shore so the boat won't sink so fast. You've got the computer, the overthinker, the analyzer going, this boat will sink in 3.5 seconds. And you've got the distractor going, oh, look, there's a bird. But nobody in the boat is actually filling the hole. And every single human being that comes to a hypnotist, or every single human being in general, has a hole in their boat. So I had to come to terms with the fact that there was a hole in my boat. And my biggest thing was people pleasing. So I was trying to please every single human being around me, putting myself last, thinking that that was the thing to do. And I was distracting by overeating and doing all sorts of wonky, weird things. And because of what I do now, I can really start to see my own personal patterns coming out. And you could probably relate to this as well, seeing your own patterns coming out. And especially when it comes to as women in people pleasing, feeling that we need to put ourselves last and make sure everybody else is okay.
Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. I love that analogy. I love that the way that you made me go out of my head, do something silly, and then come to realization as to, yep, that makes sense.
Yeah. And it's crazy too, because especially in the world that we live in today, that especially coming out of COVID, that we were forced to isolate and really stay in our heads. And now we're realizing the problem with that. We're seeing so many people suffering because they're pretty much living in their heads. They're computing everything, and they're not actually giving themselves experiences and having fun and seeing what's outside themselves. And so I truly believe the loneliest place is in your head. I like to call it being in the bad neighborhood, or my mentor likes to call it being in the bad neighborhood of your mind. It's like the minute you start spiraling, you get internal and you're trapped. It feels like you're trapped. And it's so important to start really looking outside of yourself and what's really going on.
Yeah.
And really start to see people for being messy human beings and knowing that everybody is.
Everybody is. Totally everybody is. And we mask it really well.
Oh, yeah.
But we cannot deny, like you said, the hole in the boat, because that will continue to drain your energy in ways that you're like, what is going on? I'm doing this, and this, and it's not working for me. Similar to you, what you were saying, I've done everything. Mm-hmm. And finally, hypnosis was the realization to plug the hole.
Yeah. Because sometimes when you're in the bottle, it's hard to read the label.
Absolutely.
And when people come to us, they're at that point where it's like, I've tried everything, like myself. I've tried everything and I don't know what I need to do. And so what we do is we see the patterns, we talk to them, we really get to see what's actually going on, and we put it on the table and say, "Hey, this is what's going on. This is what this is what you're not seeing, and this is what you need to level with yourself with." And when people start to really level with themselves and see what's going on and choose and make a single minded decision to change, that's when change really, really happens. And they start to see their world change in the most amazing, beautiful ways.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's so much wisdom that's pouring out of you that you chose to own, that you chose to learn, that you chose to make it your life path to not only help others, but also learn for yourself. Right? And there's nothing better than to recognize that we can be of service and we can help someone, but also understand that we've gone through it so we understand them.
And that's the beauty of the process that I've been through. So when we're being onboarded as hypnotists, when we are being trained, the first thing we do is we have our own outcomes. It's really important that every single human being, when coming into any type of hypnosis training or neurolinguistics programming, that they have their own outcomes and that they're achieving them, and that they're also creating new outcomes, so that, because it's super important as well to always be striving for something. When we're striving for something and looking forward, it's harder to look behind us.
Yes.
So the more we're looking forward, the more we're accomplishing goals, the more that we are in success. And not only that, but it's so important as hypnotists that not only are we helping people, but we're helping ourselves. It was very interesting. I was talking to someone a few months ago, and they'd met a hypnotist from another country. I'm not really sure, but it was very interesting, their experience with them, because while they were very good at helping others, there was this sense of they weren't using it to help themselves. And it was like, oh, really? Like, it's like you have these tools. It's so important to be using them on yourself and to be able to, help yourself first and then help others. Because the more you're helping yourself, the more you're achieving. People are going to see that and want to do that for themselves as well. So it was just a very interesting thing. It was somebody from a different community of hypnotists, but it's so important, not just as hypnotists, but as people in general. Always be striving for more. Always be working on yourself and helping others.
Leading by example, right? I know so many people who are like, I am done learning. I'm done learning.
Arrived.
I've arrived. I have the job. I have the family. I have the kids. I have arrived. I'm done learning.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't recognize that they're learning every single day by life.
Well, yeah. And it's interesting too that you bring this up, because I see a lot of retirees, especially people who come into the clinics, and they go, oh, I'm done, I'm retired, I'm good. But because they're not striving for something new, they kind of find themselves in a rut. They kind of find themselves in their own sense of loneliness and isolation, because they think that they've arrived. But the truth is, you never, ever arrive. It's always super important to always be looking for the next thing, the next goal. Just because you've retired, or just because you're at a certain age, doesn't mean anything. You can do anything at any age. I love hearing these stories about 93 and 95-year-olds graduating from university. And it's like, yeah, why not? If you're physically and like mentally able to, you're healthy, keep striving for more.
Absolutely. And this is the old notion when it comes to retirement that so many people are still in, not giving themselves permission to try something new.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad that you bring this up, because there's such a huge component of community right now who are retired, who now so-called have made it and get to experience life, but then they're like, I don't really have my health right now, or I don't really have the know-how of what to step into and what is next.
Hmm. And we find that when we have clients like this coming in, that uh, making sure that they're thinking about their futures, that they're really, even if it's something small, because what happens is that when we're not looking towards the future, if we're looking towards the past, we start doing these wonky things. Like I've had clients come in and they're in a lot of pain, or they're in a lot of stress, or a lot of them can be smoking and eating. And that's because they're not looking towards their future. There's some people that they fall into boredom, they fall into their own frustrations, and
Yes.
they're trapped there. And it's so heartbreaking to see. And it's so important to always be asking them and talking about what's the next thing, even if it's baby steps, even if it's like, hey, I'm going to, start going to the gym once a week, or I'm going to start that class. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go do that. I'm going to find a community like myself. It's so important to go find something and do something and learn something.
You did it. I know I for sure did it. Where it's like we try new things and sometimes the new things doesn't stick.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't take away the experience of you trying it.
Yeah. And it's so important to know that, like, we have a lot of the times, I'm seeing a lot of people as well, they get into their own rules, their own judgments, and they have this belief system. And I very much was one of those people where I fully believed that there were rules. You couldn't do that. You couldn't go somewhere by yourself. That was like, that was bad. That was good. We get caught up into this good, bad, left, right, wrong situation. And the truth is that there's no such thing as rules. It was so funny. I was at this networking event the other day, and it was so refreshing to hear somebody say that and really say, hey, there's no such thing as rules. Rules, we create the rules. And it was like, yeah, we do. Like, who said we couldn't do this or couldn't do that? And really letting go of some of that stuff, those old, and once again, goes back to those old patterns. And it's freeing to really be able to step into the possibility of knowing that we can do whatever we want, in a sense, to a degree. But to really, it's true though. So
Well, what I'm really hearing, Amanda, is like throughout your life experience and your journey so far, you have stepped into trying new things, into tasting and doing and experiencing, be that going to the hypnotist for the first time, or be that the travel experience, or be that coming back and asking for help again, and now choosing to make that your life mission and vision. It has always been that evolution of the openness that you portrayed that is really the message that I'm hearing as a thread throughout your journey. Like, try new things, be open for that.
absolutely. I think that's been my whole thing. And it was interesting too, because I grew up with a lot of people, friends, family, who went the very traditional route. And they found their person, they got married, they got the 9 to 5 job. And hey, that's a beautiful, amazing thing. Like, kudos to you. But I learned that it doesn't have to be that way. It could be something totally different and still just as beautiful. I chose to do something slightly different in my 20s, where a lot of other people were doing the more traditional thing. And it was interesting to see how their own reactions to that, because there are some people that were like, why are you doing that? You're supposed to be doing this route. And then there were some people that were like, hey, I really love that you're doing this and I want to live through you. And I'm going, well, why don't you do it yourself? And maybe they were in their own fears or their own insecurities. And it's a little sad to know to for people having those experiences, but to know that life is what you make it. It's what you choose, right? And fully owning and taking accountability of the choices that you make.
Life is what you make it.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that sentence alone is so powerful and also empowering because it gives you your power back that doesn't fit into these roles of life, but it's like, no, 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 what do I choose? Yes, I know the roles. I know the buckets. I know them all. What do I choose? Maybe today in my 20s, I'm not choosing to step into a relationship, or I'm not choosing to get a education or get my job. Right now, I'm good with doing this. But then 10 years later, 5 years later, 2 years later, you are ready for that experience of education, of the job, of the relationship. And that is perfect. No one's life is this cookie cutter that we have been told to fit in, this mold that we have been told to fit in.
And especially in 2025, we're very fortunate to live in an era right now where, it was interesting. My grandmother, she lived in an era where it was like, you are married by 21 or you are a spinster, and like did get married at 21, and she wasn't allowed to work. Her job title was homemaker and wife, and that was her sole job. She couldn't get a credit card until like, I don't know if it was the 60s or 70s, but it was my grandfather that made the money and was, he was successful in his own right, but she never got the experience to fully be on her own and do what she wanted. And living now in 2025 as a woman, having so many opportunities, especially for women right now in business. Like, we as a community of women, like, we're so powerful. Like, we can go out and really truly do pretty much almost anything we want. And so if you want to start a business, you can. If you want to have a family, choose to have a family, you can, whether it's traditional or non-traditional. Like, we have so many opportunities at our fingertips. So why not take advantage of them?
Totally.
And create your own path.
Yes. And the experience of our grandmothers, our mothers, and now us, it is different. They lived in a different era, but not alone that. It's also about, like you said, the amount of freedom that they were given. But now understanding that we not only are in a different era, we also are at this pivot point of being awakened as a women community in general, where it's like, okay, no, hold on. What do I want?
Yeah. Do I really want to stay at home? Or do I want to do a 9-to-5? Or do I want to start a business? Or do I want to get into creative endeavors? Do I want to have kids? Do I not? We have so many options. Like, or even too, it's like, do I want to adopt? Do I want to have a surrogate? Like, it's like, these are the things that we have options to, where in the past we didn't. And being totally okay with all the options, and, realizing that we have them. Like, we are blessed to live, especially not only in 2025, but to live in like a first world country where we actually have these freedoms, these options. We almost have too many options in a lot of ways. And there's both a blessing and a curse to that as well, having too many options. Sometimes too many options can be overwhelming and can set people in their own tailspins, but also teaching people that, to make a choice as well, and knowing that whatever choice you make, there is no such thing as right and wrong. It just simply is, and taking accountability for whatever choice you make.
It's that validation part, right? Because like you said, not all women on this planet have the same equal rights as we do. And they might be very content and happy in the life experience that they're living right now. Whereas when we look at it from an outstander point of view, we'll be like, oh my God, you don't have that right? How is that possible? Or how this and how that? Well, they're like, I don't see it that way. I have an amazing life. I do this and I do that, and I go here and I go there, and I do whatever I want. And they are okay with that. That's, again, this there's no right or wrong. It's literally is that experience that you feel is in alignment with your own journey right now.
Mm-hmm. And every culture is different, right? And it's from from the North American perspective, we see it one way, but you're so like, totally agree in the sense where it's like when you're in a different culture and you're living in it, and if you're happy and content, I mean, who's to say, right? And living in other cultures, they have their own set of patterns and their own way of doing things and their own. And it's so cool living, especially in Canada, because we have a melting pot of so many cultures here. And while we have as a Canadian culture, we also get to see other people's cultures from other people's countries, communities. And it's cool to see how they do things versus how, someone who's been born and raised in Canada, how they do things. So, and and it goes back to this whole, there's no right and wrong of it. It just simply is. And whether you want to choose to change that is up to you.
As you're talking, the one memory that's coming back is, so I was raised in Europe. I grew up in Holland, and when I was doing my university there, I remember in the first year, this beautiful soul, I was in the same group as her, and she always talked about this village that she grew up in and the rules of the village, and that education was not very important. That was something she was doing now, but it could also just next year she could decide to quit it because her job was to marry someone from the village and have children there, and she was going to stay there. And that's what they all did in that. And I'm like, what do you mean? I couldn't understand it because you're growing up in Holland. How are you telling me there's a village in Holland that still has these rules in place for what you can or can't do? And she's like, I don't know if I see it that way. Yeah, I've wondered it for time to time because I'm also young and I do want to take experiences in. At the same time, I'm content with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, that's your journey. That's what you're choosing. And I have no judgment whatsoever. There was just love as I was getting to know her and getting to understand her journey and her soul. But that judgment piece that we carry as women, especially as women, men have it too, but I find as women we have it slightly more. It's like, is coming from that judgment that we actually hold for ourselves.
Mm-hmm. And it's a safety mechanism, right? So we all have little safety mechanisms. So some people, it's, I'll be the judge of that. And for some people, it's, especially women, it's as well, it's, damn it, I'll do it myself. And these are just patterns that we do. These are just little things that we picked up. Maybe it's from mom, maybe it's from dad, maybe it's from siblings or friends or community, even society. And we get wrapped up thinking this is the way it is. And it's always so important to meet people from other communities. Like, I really learned the importance of not just traveling, but through my traveling experience, but through just life, how important it is to talk to people and ask questions and get really curious about other cultures, because you can learn so much, because we get so trapped in our own frame of the world of how things are supposed to be. And, or we think a certain way and we think everybody thinks that way. And that's where communication breakdowns happen a lot, because you're going, well, of course they should do that because that's what I do. But the reality is that you're just one of 8 billion people out there. And there are thousands of ways to do things. There's thousands of ways to be in life. And when we get curious about other cultures, other people, how people live, how people think, we become better communicators. We become better people. The more we stay in curiosity and discovery in others, and the more we stay in curiosity and discovery, the less we get into our own judgments.
That's it. Write that. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Being curious and letting go of the judgment, because indirectly you're letting go of your own judgment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My mentor, I was talking to her the other day, and she she said to me, the kinder you are to yourself, the kinder you will be to others. And that kind of struck a chord in my, I was like, oh, yeah, that was deep.
That is deep. That is deep.
Yeah.
And that's very absolutely true because as we all know, 80% plus of the repeat conversation we have in our head is not positive.
Mm-hmm. But it doesn't have to be that way.
Exactly.
It doesn't have to be that way. You can choose to, and that's the beauty of hypnosis, is that you really slow yourself down and you could choose your own suggestions. So the suggestions you are playing in your head right now, you can choose to change them. Yeah. You can choose to create a new dialogue in your head. You can choose to see when you're going through that tailspin into walking through that bad neighborhood. And I love to paint it out and make it really big, this bad neighborhood. And there's like people with guns and gangs and making it super scary. And when you start to like see that as some of the negative self-talk in your head, you can say, hey, I don't want to walk through that neighborhood. I'm going to make a different choice now and choose to start thinking things that are more useful so that you can go achieve your goals, so that you can go chase after your dreams, so you can get what you really desire. What I like to call the Barbie dream house. Always be striving for the Barbie dream house. So,
oh my gosh, that is amazing. That's a Barbie dream house. So, Amanda, we have a little ritual on this podcast where I get to ask you a question that the previous guest has left. And after the recording, I'm going to ask you to leave a question for the next guest as well. So awesome. The question I have for you today is, when you're not shining, how do you pick yourself back up?
When I'm not shining? For me, it's really important. So one thing that I've learned is really leading on the right community. So I'm very, very fortunate right now to have found a community of people that I really like. If something's going on, I look for feedback. It's really important and to find the feedback from the right people. And so I'm a part of a mentorship program of hypnotists where, we lean on each other. We find that when things are going sideways or when things are going or I find myself going into old unuseful patterns, I go and I check myself. And I've gotten better throughout the years of going, hey, something's going up, something's going down, I should say. And I need to really check myself and see where I need to change, because it goes back to, once again, it's hard to read the label when you're in the bottle.
Yeah.
And we're all, once again, all messy human beings. So it's important to have that community of people that can go, hey, are you not seeing this? Are you not seeing that? What's going on here? Also, I've created something within myself that if I feel uncomfortable or if I find myself in judgment, frustration, I find myself in all these unuseful emotions, I take a step back, I look around and I go, what am I learning here? What am I pushing to learn? What am I pushing myself away from? What's making me feel uncomfortable? And start leaning into the discomfort, start leaning into moving through those emotions, start doing uncomfortable things. It's so important to do uncomfortable things. We've made it here I feel like in Canada, that we're always trying to find comfort. But the thing is, when we start to look for discomfort, when we start to lean into discomfort, when we start to push ourselves, we can make even bigger changes. We can really learn a lot. We can learn faster, and we can really push ourselves to really achieve our dreams.
I love that. Well said. Community is absolutely key, and it brings you that safe space of being vulnerable, of opening up yourself, and of really being fully seen without judgment, because you're allowing yourself that grace. Thank you so much, Amanda, for sharing your journey, for being so open and honest, and also giving your tidbits of wisdom to the listeners today as they go through their own journey, as they go through seeking what would work for them. And anyone listening, if you feel inspired, are curious about Amanda, all her information is in the description below. Please reach out, connect, ask questions, follow her, whatever you need to really have that sense of, okay, what she said here resonated, or what this happened there is something that I'm going through. Allow yourself to find the right people.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you so much for being on.
Thank you. This was a beautiful conversation. Thank you. This was amazing. And yeah.
I appreciate you for coming on, for sharing your wisdom, and I can't wait for everyone to hear the conversation and really lean into what they can be curious about. Till next time, everyone. Thank you for listening. I hope this episode has helped you to feel less alone in finding tools towards a life which is overflowing with love and purpose. If you enjoyed the episode, please take a second to rate and review. Each review helps us to reach more individuals who are seeking healing and personal growth just like you. And don't forget to take a screenshot and share your aha moments on your Instagram stories and tag me, Matina. See you next week. Take care.